Did you know? The protagonist of Wolfenstein 3D, William B.J. Blazkowicz, is the grandfather of another id Software character, Commander Keen. Keen goes by the pseudonym Billy Blaze, but his full name is actually William Blazkowicz II. Wolfenstein has direct connections to id's Doom series as well. In the mobile spin-off Doom RPG, players take the role of a Marine named B.J. Blazkowicz III, and Doom 2 RPG features a Marine named Stan Blazkowicz. In another mobile spin-off, Wolfenstein RPG, the final boss is a demon known as the Harbinger of Doom. During the battle, the monster loses its left arm and right leg, the same limbs replaced with prosthetics on the cyber demons in Doom. When id Software began development on what became Wolfenstein 3D, they didn't start with a World War II theme. The first concept was a generic monster shooter called It's Green and Pissed, inspired by a line from 1982's The Thing. Other names they considered for the project included Die Mutants Die, Three Demons, and Texture Map Terrence in the Green Shit. Lead designer and programmer John Romero was a fan of the original 8-bit Castle Wolfenstein from 1981, and he convinced the team to remake it with their brand of 3D technology. id Software actually began remaking the game before they even had permission from the original license holder. They didn't know if they'd be allowed to use the Wolfenstein trademark, so as a backup plan they came up with a list of alternate names on the same theme. This list included names like Deep in Germany, Castle Hasselhoff, Adolf's Bane, Dolchsteufel, Devil Dagger, and Geruchschlecht, Bad Smell. Another name they considered was Castle Hollowhammer, which later became the name of the second castle featured in Episode 2 of Wolfenstein 3D. While working under a tentative title, id Software discovered the publisher for Castle Wolfenstein went bankrupt in the mid-1980s and let the trademark lapse. They purchased the trademark at a low cost and officially rebooted the series. In the early stages of development, Wolfenstein 3D had more elements of stealth, similar to the original Castle Wolfenstein. Players could drag corpses, swap uniforms, and pick locks. These features were removed, however, as they slowed the pace of the game. Lead programmer John Carmack took the raycasting engine he created for Hovertank and Catacomb 3D and improved its speed for Wolf 3D. One of Wolfenstein's most iconic features, the secret push walls, almost didn't make it into the game. Tom Hall wanted the secret walls to move backwards, but John Carmack didn't like the idea. Carmack thought the implementation of the sliding walls was an ugly hack and that their inclusion would sacrifice speed, simplicity, and efficiency in the code. The disagreement continued for months, with John Romero siding with Tom and Carmack becoming annoyed by the constant requests. Finally, when the game was nearing completion, Romero and Hall decided to ask Carmack one last time to add in push walls. When they got there, Carmack told the two men that push walls were already in the game. Carmack simply added the secrets without telling them. The graphic content of Wolfenstein 3D became a contentious issue with the game's retail publisher, FormGen. id Software's business partner Scott Miller was told by an executive of FormGen, "We don't think they should be showing blood and stirring up the World War II stuff. We're really worried about this. It's too realistic. We're going to make a lot of people upset. There's never been a game like this." Rebelliously, Scott Miller then called id Software and suggested that they make the game even more gratuitous. They added more blood, skeletons hanging from the ceilings, and a death cam that repeated every frame of graphic detail at the end of a boss fight. FormGen published the game with no alterations. The release of Wolfenstein 3D caused minor controversies all over the world, but in Germany it was outright banned by the government. A German federal law forbids the use of Nazi imagery in popular media. This includes the use of swastikas, Hitler's name and likeness, and the game's opening theme, which is a MIDI version of the Nazi Party anthem. Even though it couldn't be sold in German stores, online distribution of the game continued through BBS boards. German gamers even created a secret codename for the game, Hundefelsen 4C. Wolfenstein roughly translates to English as Wolf Stone, and the name Hundefelsen contains the German words for hound and rock. The game is notorious among German speakers for bad grammar and thick American accent. The iconic death cry, "Mein Leben!" awkwardly translates to "My life!" and the dying officer's voice clip, "Nein, so was!" means, "Well, I never." Some members of id Software were culturally unaware to the point that sound designer Bobby Prince had to explain that not all Germans were Nazis. He was concerned after reading the first draft of the manual, which listed Nazi soldiers as simply Germans. A surprising number of the many Wolfenstein 3D ports were actually developed in-house by id Software. The most infamous example is the heavily censored Super Nintendo port. Developers at Interplay were supposed to create the SNES version, but they were not able to complete the project in time. So Carmack decided to program the port himself and earned $100,000 from Nintendo. Decades later, an early build of the SNES version leaked online and showcased a few differences, including less censorship. The maps of the older version are closer to the PC release, and Hitler is renamed Hister rather than Statmeister. All of the censored imagery was also developed by id at the request of Nintendo. Id had detailed knowledge of Nintendo's strict policies against certain types of imagery, including religious imagery. Despite this, they agreed to license their Super Nintendo Wolfenstein engine to the Christian game developer Wisdom Tree for a bootleg religious-themed game. The result was Super Noah's Ark 3D, one of the few unlicensed SNES cartridges. id Software's chief executive Jay Wilbur thought Noah's Ark 3D was hilarious. The Atari Jaguar version of Wolfenstein was another port developed by id Software. The sprites and textures were upgraded as part of a test to see if the Jaguar had enough power to run Doom. In 2009, John Carmack personally ported Wolfenstein 3D to iOS devices in his spare time. The most recent Carmack-developed port of Wolfenstein is a browser-based HTML5 version. It was created to commemorate the release of Wolfenstein: The New Order in 2014. One of the most impressive ports of Wolfenstein is an unofficial Game Boy Color version. The homebrew software was developed by a fan named Anders Granlund, who fit a custom co-processing chip in the cartridge to render 3D environments on the 8-bit system. In 1993, Wolfenstein 3D was part of an early attempt at virtual reality gaming. A company called Alternate World Technologies created a VR arcade unit using the game as a base. The cabinet contained a version of the game called Wolfenstein VR, as well as 2 other games that use the Wolf 3D engine. During a Q&A at QuakeCon 2012, Carmack recalled being appalled by the video quality of Wolfenstein VR. When he took a look at the video connection for the headset, he realized it was connected to a camcorder that was recording the screen of a monitor. The machine had a limited release and is considered very rare by the International Arcade Museum. Speaking of arcade games, did you know that Marge Simpson was planned to have bunny ears under her hair in the show, and that this unused idea made it into The Simpsons arcade game? For more Simpsons facts, check out our video on The Simpsons games. If you like this video, give it a like, and consider subscribing to the channel. I'm Inagata Devita, and I am a huge fan of id Software. My friends and I are playing this game right now over on the channel I come from, Nostalgia Trip. We're talking about id Software, their games, classic gaming, all kinds of fun stuff like that.